What's happening, everybody? We're back. This is Theros International. It's been about, I think, a couple weeks since we've done a live show. It's been mainly a lot of reactions and videos, but we're back here and we're here to chat about the unfortunate draw that we had away at Aris at Kleanthis Vikelidis Stadium. Mendilibar has not won away at Aris since he has arrived at Olympiacos. So unfortunately, he couldn't change that today, and we're going to talk about it. But before we do, of course, let me welcome my co-host Marcial. Marcial, how you doing, buddy?
Well, it's going to be one of the first live show I'm doing this season after what I consider being a disappointing result. So it's going to be quite different from those easy win again against smaller teams. But it's going to be interesting, I think.
Absolutely. And look, there's even though the match was disappointing, right now we're still in first place. I believe Balk ended up dropping points today, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't
That's true.
see any of the other games this week. Usually I watch just about all of them, but then this week I actually ended up missing almost everything. And then Panathinaikos, last I checked, was winning 2-1. But we're still in the lead, even though we had our misstep. Ike won, but I believe they're 1 point behind us in the standings as is. So the draw, even though it's frustrating, didn't hurt us in terms of our table position. But we're going to talk about all of that in just a moment. Don't forget, for those of you that are tuning in, about a dozen of you already have, don't forget to like and subscribe. Even if you subscribe to us, every engagement, a like, a comment, it helps us find more and more red and white fans. It helps us with the algorithm because the more engagements you get, the more the algorithm helps you find other people. If you can hype the videos as well, hype the live shows, hype any videos you see, also extremely helpful with the new YouTube algorithm. So help us continue to do that and grow this red and white community. I believe, Marcial, we only have 90 to go until 8,000 subscribers. So a big milestone for us. Help us hit that before the end of the year would be massive. And for those of you that like what you hear and you want to get a little bit more of Theodore 7 International, you can support us on Patreon. We have different tiers, whether you just want to join the WhatsApp group and engage with Olympiacos fans from around the world and get some information that we don't share on social media, or plenty of debates, of course. And you can check that out. There's also plenty of extra content. We have an interview coming up next week with somebody we met from the Football Content Awards. Martial does Martial Mondays, which are always a treat, with Martial's thoughts, whether it's with Rio Ave or other teams, anything that he thinks about. So you get a little bit of what it's like to have Martial on a morning talking to you in the WhatsApp group chat on Martial Monday. So it's a very fun segment that is done there. So now let's get to the match with Aris. Actually, real quick, Martial, the U19s. The U19s drew today. They did not play Aris. They played Asteras, the Asteras U19s, and they drew 1-1 against them as well. So really quickly before we talk about the game. But the game today was, okay, it's Mendy ball, so it's never pretty. But there were various things with this match that were frustrating. My only issue with this game today was, of course, seeing Danny Garcia start. That is the one player. Well, maybe we can talk about Bruno later, but seeing Danny Garcia start has been a huge pet peeve of mine this season. I've had issues with every game he's played against. I don't value any production he's offered us in almost any game. This guy, he gets a red card today for being an idiot with how he did his slide tackle. And he's so lucky he didn't get a red card in the first half, because that foul he had on Galanopoulos when he tries to slide and he's already right next to Galanopoulos doing it, and he just completely takes him out. He's so lucky the ball was called dead. The play was dead on the first foul. I think it was, who did the first foul? It wasn't Muzakitis, was it? Anyway, there was a foul that happened before him. Maybe it was Pirola. And because the play was already signaled dead, that stupid slide he had on Galanopoulos, the ref kind of just ignored it, even though he cautioned him. But he could have been thrown out in the first half. Almost every touch Danny Garcia had today was worthless. Sending the ball to the opponents, unable to cross the ball. I couldn't. I watched him get beat multiple times. The one decent opportunity Aris had, where they came down our right side. I think it was off of a throw in. Danny Garcia loses the man he's supposed to be with. He just stopped tracking him. The ball goes in, and then it gets played to that guy Perez on the right, and he just whiffs the shot. That was one of their most dangerous opportunities all game, and it came from Danny Garcia, again, unable to track his man. So in addition to getting a red card today, he was just one of the worst players on the pitch. And I wonder what it's going to take for Mendilibar to stop using him because, quite frankly, he's become a detriment to the team, and I'm sick of having to see him. The game, in various respects, and we'll talk about other players later, but for me, I had big issues with Danny Garcia again today, and at this point, man, I would like I'm happy if he moves on by January, but he needs to go by the end of the season. This guy right now is not good enough to play for La Mia, let alone Olympiacos. I'm so sick and tired of having to deal with Danny Garcia. It for me, it's done. It's over. I'm done. I'm done with this.
Well, I think no one will disagree with you on that because we pretty much say that since the summer, and we're yet to find an explanation of what Danny Garcia is bringing. Because it's true that you need like soldiers or uh, player that are basically like the end of the coach on the team on the pitch, but it's not showing any of that. And either is it's the passing, either it's the full. The biggest thing for me is the full. Like I could be okay with Garcia starting great games like that if he wasn't committing so many fouls. Like the guy breathes for fouls. And the thing is, the issue for me is quite important because I don't think it's possible for the club to resign Danny Garcia in January, even if it seems the most logical thing to do, because we all know that he is key to the coach. But also, if you resigned Danny Garcia, it's because you probably need someone to fill the gap. And to fill the gap for Mendilibar, he asked for players like uh, what's the guy from Getafe? I'm forgetting his name.
Mia?
Uh, yeah, Mia. Sorry. And the thing is, I was wondering watching the game if Mendilibar isn't using some players to the bone. I don't know the word in English, like until they get erased because he wasn't happy with some signings. Because if Mia came, for example, I don't even think Garcia would have been rostered. We would be debating if Musakidis can be paired or if Musakidis can start over unestablished La Liga players. But the thing is, we ended up debating on if Musakidis is more useful than Darren Garcia, and the answer is clear. Like we can't even ask the question. We can't even ask the question. But I truly hope that it's the last game Garcia is starting, at least important game, because he was starting very few games recently. If we are truly objective, he only started the small games. And Aris away, despite what we think about Aris, about Manolo Jimenez, is one of the most annoying game you can play because they do have like some quality players, and you need to be quite good to win there. And
Yes.
I think we're gonna touch on that, but I'm struggling to understand how Mendilibar treats away games in Aris because uh, he, maybe you want to test player, maybe you want to give players a chance in a tough game. But it reminds me when it started Habi and Endo in midfield, and we ended up losing the league when he came in 2023, if I'm correct. You know what I mean? He always had strange lineup choices in Saloniki.
Yeah. You know, Martial, my with Mendilibar, it's so for well, let's apply a little bit of context first, right? We just had the midweek game. We had the midweek Champions League match against Kairat in frigid conditions. We came back. I believe he gave the players 2 days off, if I'm not mistaken. So we played, the players had 2 days off. They trained. We had some rotation. We were missing some important players. We had no Panos Retsos, right? We had no Biancon as well. So two our starting right center back and then Biancon the backup, they're both injured. We came into this game with Kalouyeropoulos next to Pirola. And then we started the game with Bruno playing left back, Costinha playing on the right. So it was rotated. The back four was completely rotated outside of Lorenzo Pirola. And the Strafezza ends up starting again because he's had a couple of pretty decent games. You had Gelson Martins with doing Gelson Martins things, but the bigger issue became, I don't necessarily think. Look, I would be a lot more upset if we did not create shooting chances. Right? We remember matches where we play against Aris. It's an ugly game, and we can barely materialize chances. We had chances today. We had plenty of scoring chances, even scoring chances that didn't count towards what we would call our XG, right? Because you have to actually get a shot off to for XG to be measured. And we had lots of those chances where Gelson Martins runs all the way down the right side to get the ball near the penalty area, just to play. All he had to do was get El Kabi in stride. El Kabi has a really good chance to score a goal, but he can't even get the ball to Ayub El Kabi. Ayub El Kabi received the ball multiple times in the penalty area. All he had to do was make a square pass. In one situation, it was to Taremi, and he couldn't even get the ball to Taremi here. The final product, and this has been typical of us under Mendilibar for most, not just last season, this season, and even when he first joined and after the Conference League season, we give the ball away so much. We can be so wasteful with our opportunities all over the pitch. And you see this when you look at Europa League last season. We were second or third worst in the Europa League when it came to giving away possession. This year in Champions League, we give away possession the most out of any team in Champions League, including Kairat, by the way. Kairat's better than we are. It's horrible. It is absolutely horrible. We give the ball away in so many situations, even though we do such great work in transition and to get the ball forward in many occasions. And you can see how frustrating this is for our players. Look at Mouzakitis. We talked about this before going live. Mouzakitis had that beautiful one touch to Santiago Eze, and Eze just completely whiffs the shot. Beautiful chance off of a wonderful one touch. We made chances. We materialized plenty of chances, as we have all season. We just couldn't put anything away. We couldn't put anything away, and then we wasted even more chances that we couldn't even get to people's feet today.
No, but
And then you have some players like Bruno Onyemaichi on the left who have the ball skills of a high schooler, and he can't even cross the ball. Did he get a cross in the air today? I don't think he did.
but I think also you touched on that, but I'm trying to understand why would you want why would you need to rotate uh, that much the team after a win in Champions League? Because yes, I know it. We played like super far away from Greece on a plastic pitch. Some players were probably tired, but I don't recall in which outlet Chiquinho said that, but he said basically before the game that they want to play as much as possible. Like they do love to play every 3 days. We are supposed to have the depth to play every 3 games. So I understand. I don't understand if you have Iraklis at home and then you have Kifisia at home to end the year. Those are the games in which you need to rotate. You can rotate in Saloniki because Retros is out and Bianco, I don't know what he had, but you needed to use Kalogeropoulos with Pirola. But there is no need to start Bruno in this game, in my opinion, because we all know Mendilibar is not considering Bruno to be a starter ever in this club. I mean, we can assume that because there's no way Bruno will claim the spot of Ortega. And uh, the saddest part for me is for Strefezza, because I truly appreciated what he did in Keirat, and I was expecting Strefezza to start with what I consider being the best lineup possible. You know what I mean? Like with Heze and Mutakidis in the midfield, to have more balance in the midfield. With Gelson on the right, that was the case, uh, but also with a more balanced defense. And it's not helping players when you start them, giving them a chance with a team that is rotated that much. It does not excuse the fact that he missed chances and stuff, but man, it reminded me of Martins when was giving chances to sub, he was using pretty much every single one of them at the same time. And I think Mendilibar gave them a chance, a very difficult chance. They kind of missed at it, but it's frustrating, as you said. I think the word for the night is frustrating.
Yeah, it is. And there's, there's the chat has a few different things that's being mentioned by various people over and over again. And I want to touch on this first. We have another game here. Now, for those that didn't watch the game, or for those that are listening on audio that need more context, the game, we had a red card. Danny Garcia gets a red card. I believe that was in the 60th minute, if I'm not mistaken. No, sorry, 51st minute. Danny Garcia gets a red card. Then Fadiga gets a straight red after a VAR review because he was the last man back. Mehdi Taremi has the ball with a scoring opportunity, gets completely taken out by Fadiga, which is what draws the red card, and then we go level. You're 10 on 10 at this point at the 61st minute, right? So we're back to even playing. And the first substitutions Mendy makes, he brings on Chiquinho for Gelson Martins and Santiago Eze for Strefezza. So you took off two of your wingers, right? And you bring on Chiquinho, who's only for pressing on the wing, and then you bring Santiago Eze to help with the midfield. And this was in the 64th minute. And then as things go on and we get control back in the game, he brings on Ortega. He takes off Bruno and Yamaichi, brings on Ortega, and then he finishes the substitutes by bringing on Roman Yaremchuk and Daniel Podence. This was in the 86th minute with a few minutes to go. But you had Yusuf Yazici on the bench. You had Remy Cabella. Okay, maybe Remy Cabella hasn't been as good for us this season as we had hoped, but you had both of these guys on the bench. Yusuf Yazici in particular is the one that most people are upset about because this guy has played very few minutes and yet has 4 goals and 5 assists on the season. This is the one everybody's freaking out about. And once again, Mendilibar refused to use him even in the dying minutes of the match. The guy who has bailed Mendilibar out probably the most this season, despite limited usage, didn't get any time off of the bench.
No,
What is your thought on this whole thing? Is it inexcusable that he's not using at the very least Yazici in these situations, even 10 on 10?
the answer for me would be probably yes and no at the same time, because uh, we I think we can come to the conclusion that either for Costinia, for Yaremchuk, for Yazici, in different scales, because Costinia has quite a playing time, but none of those players will have the role that we want them to have, and Yazici will come in when the circumstances uh, makes it possible. And I don't have any hope in Mendilibar using Yazici more than he's currently doing, because um, he had multiple chances to start Yazici in games that matters in the league, like in Tumba, in I don't know, in Leo Photos and stuff. Like he will never start those games. We know that. Yaremchuk will never start those games if El Kabi is ready to play. It has been almost 2 years of Mendilibar, if not more, and we can come to the conclusion that he's not changing on that for some reasons, and those are frustrating reasons. I agree on that, but uh, it's not gonna happen. It is not going to happen to see Yaremchuk replacing El Kabi at halftime if he sucks. It is not going to happen to see Yazici coming in instead of starting me today after what I consider being a very poor first half on Taremi. For example, it's just an example. We do know for sure that Yazici is going to start in the cup, maybe against Kifisia, but when he was good in Sirius, he did not start against Ofi. So I think the answers are pretty much obvious to me. I don't think he's going to leave in January because he indeed serves the purpose in the team because he's always the first name to come out of the bench, uh, out of the five subs. But not the first name, but I mean, he's always coming in most of the time, even for like 4 or 5 minutes. It's not like it's Kabila. I think Kabila is going to leave in January, but
Probably.
uh, I have accepted that. I have accepted that Yazici will have a very limited role until the end. And if we don't see injuries, just like the El Kabi's injury for Yaremchuk, there is no way he's going to be a starter. No matter how much goals he score off the bench, no matter how much assists he can give, how much crosses, how much anything, he's not starting ever over Potencia and Gelson and Strefeta.
Let's expand this a little bit, not just about Yazici, but let's talk about the subs in general today. Were the subs handled correctly? For me, no. The second Danny Garcia gets the yellow card and almost gets a red card before halftime, he has to be subbed. For me, that is a halftime sub that needed to be made. So if you're going to bring on Santiago Eze, he needed to come over. He needed to be substituted at halftime. That's the first problem for me. That was a red flag already. And Mendilibar didn't see it. He has a blind side, a blind eye to this type of stuff when it comes to Danny Garcia. Then when we don't even get the substitutions when we get the red card, right? So red card, Danny Garcia comes out. There were no changes. Even as Aris is beginning to build up pressure, because before the red card, Aris didn't do much. In the first half, they had very few situations against us. In the second half, right at the start of the second half, they had a chance like in the first minute. But again, when it was 11 on 11, they did not have much. The second we go down a man, yes, the pressure starts getting applied more and more and more. And he doesn't make that first sub until after they get a red card. So at this point, he had waited almost, what was it, 15 minutes to make a change. If you have a red card and now you only have Jesus Muzakitis in the midfield, I'm sorry. You need to make the change to bolster the midfield at that point. And he didn't do that. And then he goes ahead and he brings on Chiquinho. He brings on Chiquinho and Heze. You're on 10 on 10. There's more space. Okay, maybe he's thinking I need people I know will be able to run more. Fine. I understand that, at least for that substitution. But then in the dying embers of the game, when there's more space and you need something to happen, put your creative players out there. They have more space. They're going to be able to do more for you, like Yazici. Yazici with more space, give him 20, 25 minutes, and I'm sure he creates situations for you. And Yazici has been good against the low block as well this season. He can shoot from distance. I just don't, I have no, I did not have faith in the changes today as I saw them. And I watched it on
No,
delay.
I think the answer for me is quite simple. It's way more simple than what we're saying because we need to also have in mind that Mendy never asked for so many players in the squad. Like the number one rule of Mendilibar basically is to have a shorter the shortest squad possible. And
23 men. Yeah.
what does it mean? It means that you don't have to think about am I going to use Kabbalah? Am I going to use Yazidi? Both player it did not ask for. Let's remind that because we can debate.
Yes.
Both are quality players. But the thing is, he never asked for so many players in the squad. So yes, it's frustrating because he can't use the full squad. But I mean,
He can't or won't.
I think both because he has played everyone. We can't criticize Mendilibar for not giving chances to anyone because even Vezo has played. Yeah, I think Vezo has played cup games, meaningless cup games, but still he rewarded Vezo in cups games, and I think he kind of not lost it, but it's difficult to have a structure when you don't have a proper right-footed centre back that can be the sub of Red Sox because where was Biancon tonight? I mean, he's
He was injured.
the designed. Yeah, but why is injured? He played in Kairat, man. How is that possible that anytime a key player is injured, the guy that is supposed to replace him is injured too? I mean, it's not
But that's why we
possible.
have Kalogeropoulos too.
Yeah, no, I don't
Injuries
complain
happen,
about.
man. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but those injuries happen. And we can argue against the medical team, what have you, but those injuries happen. That's why you have the depth that you do. But the problem isn't the depth that he's using, it's the depth that he's not using. Because okay,
Yeah, but
whether I agree or not with his usage of Vezo, it was his choice to keep Ruben Vezo around. Again,
yeah, no,
I'm not saying I agree or disagree with the fact that he's trying to use a player. Fine, he's using them. But when you have a guy like Vezo around, it also takes minutes away from Kalogeropoulos, and then in a small manner, Gustavo Mancha, just like keeping a guy like Danny Garcia around takes away time you would normally give to Scipioni, to Diogo Nascimento, even to Liazzi Curas. And then at the same, and that these are all his choices. These are all his choices that he's made. It was his choice to start Danny Garcia today. It was his choice
no,
to make these substitutes. It was his choice not to use Yusuf Yazici in the
that,
dying minutes.
I
You know what I
agree,
mean?
but I agree, but we can't be because I'm seeing comments about Pneumonitis. But man, we are in the point in which Kabbalah is not even getting 1 minute.
Right.
So of course Pneumonitis is not smelling the first team. Like he's not gonna
Yeah.
play for the remainder of the season. If a guy like Kabbalah is not playing, like Pneumonitis is not even in the debate. So we don't use Scipioni that would start probably in most of the Greek clubs. We don't use Nascimento that would start in many of the Greek clubs, including top one easily. We don't use Yazici that would be the absolute starter anywhere
Anywhere. Yeah.
because we have too many players. Like Yaremchuk is not even playing. He can't play. Taremi has scored like 10 goals in 5 minutes of playing time. So we're getting to the point in which accumulating player, no matter the quality of the player, will force the coach, and especially a stupid one like Mendilibar, to use more what he identifies as key players. And I think it's not football manager. I mean, you can't rotate the team every 3 days and expect the team to
Right.
be at the same level. And it's frustrating because we do indeed have a lot of quality. I'm not going to debate that; it's visible. Like even Strefezza has quality. But the thing is, we made some mistake in the summer over squad building because we probably have 4 or 5 player that are not required in terms of number.
Do you mean in terms of players we should have sold, or players
No,
that we
in
should not
terms
have
of
brought?
a number of player. I mean,
Oh,
uh,
overall number, you mean?
yeah, I think
Okay.
we have 1 or 2 midfielder.
Too many.
Too many, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think if we remember the sequence of events from the summer, we brought in Scipioni first, right? Stamenic left. We needed a replacement.
Yes.
Scipioni was the player that we brought that was supposed to be okay. If offer comes for Santiago Eze. We know we have this guy, and then they brought Diogo
Yeah,
Nascimento. So
quality player.
exactly. And a player that we knew, even if he didn't have much to offer this season, would offer us something in the future. He has plenty of talent. But then we never moved anybody on. We didn't move. There was no Santiago Eze moving on. No Muzakiti sold, which for you can say, well, thank God in some ways, right? But then the problem
You,
was we had too many players.
you know what?
Instead of getting the veteran center back option, we went for Gustavo Mancha.
Yeah.
These
No,
were the choices that were made in respect with
you
those
know
those
what?
positions.
You know what? In my opinion, I would summarize the summer in the we signed opportunities rather than needs because uh, when you're able to sign Nascimento and when you're Olympiacos, you need to sign the guy because he has quality and it's easily sellable and you know
Yeah,
he's going to improve. But if you sign Nascimento, you need to make room for the guy. You need to uh, do
right.
not sign Kabila because Kabila was an opportunity again. And if you keep Pirola, you need to you can't sign Mantra. You need to sign someone older, like to be the third choice. I mean, and we are in a situation right now with quality player that multiple player needs time to improve. Scipioni needs playing time.
Yes.
Nascimento needs playing time. Strefezza needs playing time. Mancha needs playing time. Uh, it's not possible. Not all of them can have the playing times they need, and we ended up getting caught by the ability to sign opportunity players for like registered fees, I would say, because Scipioni for 4 million, you can argue that it's quite a good business. But we need to make it have sense, and I need also to remind people that Mendilibar wanted specific players, and unless I'm wrong, we signed none of them.
No,
We
he only
signed none
wanted
of them.
Heel. Brian Heel was the only player specifically that forget the short lists that are given by the club. He wanted one player, Brian Heel, which we could not get. Brian Heel he's a left-footed left winger, but he didn't want to come to Greece. The
But
players on the short list that he really wanted were Mia in the midfield. He wanted uh um oh my goodness, Cherney, Václav Cherney, but Cherney didn't want to come to Greece. He wanted I'm forgetting the names. He wanted from
Vicente,
Alaves,
it's Vicente, right?
Vicente, yes. But Vicente, the money, you would have spent more money for Vicente, and he's basically a Spanish Masuras. If you think people are
No, I
upset about
agree.
Strefezza now, can you imagine how upset they get over Vicente, and we would have spent more on him? It's
No, but it's. I think my point was trying to say that probably we signed too many players instead of less but better players. And by meaning, when I say less but betters, easier option were available, and we will need to get to the point in which Andre Luis was need to be signed in the summer, and you can't sign Nascimento or Kabila when you have access to Andre Luis. You just can't. I mean, it's a crime what we did to Kabila because I truly love the player, but it was visible that anyone that signs for Olympiacos in April is going to get uh, F word by the club because we ended up in the Champions League and it's obvious that you have multiple opportunities along the summer, and we kind of panicked, and the cherry on the cake, in my opinion, was signing Potense at the very end of the summer, because I'm sorry to say it again, but I don't debate Potense's quality, but when you sign Potense in late August, it ruins everything you built from June to August. Like it killed both Kabila and Yazici. With all due
yeah,
respect to Podense, that is a good player, that will be helpful for the club, but we don't realize that it kind of killed a chemistry, even for Pneumonides, because Pneumonides was one of the best players during the preseason.
Yeah, I think part of it also is the Podence when the Podence opportunity arose, right? When the player really started to push to want to come back, we hadn't signed, we had only we remember we wanted two wingers and a third a third name was even being said, that like a third option that we wanted to bring in. But we bring in Strafezza, who was not at the top of the short list. He was one of the other names. We couldn't get Brian Heel. Brian Heel still wasn't willing to come because he was waiting for that Spanish offer. And I think when Podence started to push back, the club said, okay, we didn't get some of these options that we wanted. We have to, we might as well get Podence back. He's a known quantity. Mendilibar clearly values him because he plays him a lot, even if he doesn't track back or do a lot of the off ball work that's wanted. And that's the situation. And that's what happened. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of people that are upset about the Strafezza signing, which that's something we can have a huge discussion about. But all of the signings we brought in, maybe except for Taremi because of his age, have value attributed to them. Look at the clear increase in value we've gotten from most of our signings. Whether or not, the real debate is the signings that we brought in, younger, most of them were younger, scouted signings. Did those signings mesh with what Mendilibar wanted? And if Mendilibar approved of those signings, which he approved of most of them, then why is he acting the way he is with so many of them? The ones for sure we know were not Mendilibar signings. Last year was Yazici, and then Remy Cabella in the first one. I mean, and so that doesn't surprise any of us. But without Yazici, Martial, Mendilibar drops points in at least two games. You know what I mean? I have more of an issue with how Mendilibar manages the resources we have than the resources that we did not get. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to disagree with what I see so many people saying, or at least especially in the chat. I don't think we had a bad summer transfer wise. I think we did some good business, measured business. There's things I wish we did a little differently, but some people will never wrap their head around the fact that this club will never spend more than 5-6 million euro on a player. That's just it. Plus bonuses. That's just how it is. Especially the winger position, guys like Strafezza go for 5 million, 8 million. Carlos Vicente is 10 million. That's the position, man.
I think also my frustration probably comes from the fact that either the board or Mendilibar aren't able to. It's obvious that when you can't sign Mia or Vicente because they are too expensive, I think myself and most of the fan can accept that. We play in Greece. We're just starting to make sales again. We are going back to the Champions League. It's difficult to sign a 10 million player. I agree. But then when comes after that from the club or the coach or both should be, we can't sign Vicente, no problem. We're going to use Pneumonides. We are not signing Cabela, that is a talented player. Uh, with all due respect, he was in the quarterfinals of the Champions League last season, by the way.
Right.
You say, we don't sign Bruno. We have Athanasiu that comes from Atromitos in January that was available to play from 5 to 10 games because Ortega has improved so much and it doesn't give a lot of chances to the backup. But know that Athanasiu is a starter in Rio Ave. He is not coming back to Olympiacos to be a sub ever again. It's not happening. You had Andre Luis available for cheap, or at least on the cheap for the value he has. And then you sign Nascimento, that is a good player, but with a very specific profile that does not fit and basically anything in the team. You sign Taremi for being an anti-Chiquinho that is probably the most reliable player in the team. But you kind of cut off Yaremchuk that was in form, and the guy is. I mean, sometimes why can't this club be more simple? Why? Because
Well,
we're going to go to January with like 5 departures and 5 signings. I can smell it because we can't avoid that. We just can't avoid that. There is no need, in my opinion, to have a busy January, but we will have one. I'm pretty sure of this. Like
I think it'll be a
we need
busy
center back.
January as well, with sales at the very least. I don't know how many players will bring in, but I do think some players will go out.
Yes.
And I don't just mean Ruben Vezo. I'm talking about I'm talking about big sales, like sales for some one or two important players. I be honest, I really think that over the summer there was an expectation that a player like Santiago Heze would be sold, or perhaps even a Francisco Ortega, or perhaps even Muzakitis after Babis Costulas, because you look at the moves that we made, right? Overloading on the midfield. That type of overload on the midfield signaled to me we expected a departure. You don't bring extra players in if you're not expecting to get rid of some. And I really think that was the case. I really do believe we were expecting to sell a midfielder, and I really think there will be departures. Remy Cabela wants to play. I'm sure he's going to find his way out. Yusuf Yazici, I could see because it's his first year back from that really bad ACL injury. I could see him staying the rest of the season. That wouldn't necessarily surprise me, especially if he doesn't see an offer. I doubt he's getting the offers that he likes money wise, or from the teams. I doubt they've materialized to a level some people would believe that they have. But I could see Cabela leaving, and you know, whether it's Hezer or Muzakitis, man, I know I really believe 100% that we are losing a midfielder. In which case, the midfield will then be a little thinner.
But I mean, sometimes uh, we, as much as frustrated we are toward Mendilibar, most of the time when feel that during the season, I just try to understand why would I do in his place. Like you enter the summer for Champions League, you have specific taste for player. We've seen the targets whole summer, like basically Mia, Vicente, and like Antino were names we've heard for 3 months, and I don't say that it was the only player Mendilibar wanted, but man, at some point you have a coach like that, and you give him Nascimento, you give him Scipioni, you give him Mancha, you give him Kabbalah, you give him Yazici out of the injury. What could happen? Just what could happen at sometime? It's almost. I wouldn't say it's a miracle that we are first in the league right now because we have a lot of quality. But what Mendilibar is doing with the team right now is quite massive. I came to the conclusion after like K-Rat because the infinite pressure you have and the inability of the club to make simple signing. I mean, why can't we have a true veteran for the defense? Is it that hard to find on the market someone that is experienced, that is not Versalico, like broken physically, that is not Mancha, that is like 12 years old, that is not Lovren, that is finished for football? You know what I mean? Why can't we find a player like that? I just don't understand. Like, you watch Champions League every week, and you don't need a super team to win. You don't need a super team to win. Like, you watch Karabakh, and they have the equivalent of uh, Bruno Felipe from Atromitos, and they win games with that. You don't need experience. Like, look, old David Luiz was good when it comes to Paphos. Like, the guy was finished. He was playing in Brazil since the last decade, and Danny
I
Garcia is basically the only experienced player we have in the squad. I mean, sometimes you just want to cry when you see that. Like, you just want to
Yeah.
cry in a massive club like Olympiacos that has seen so many big names signing for Champions League. And you
Right.
see Olympiacos unable to sign a proper center back that would be, I don't even have name in my mind, but don't know, it's not possible.
If I remember correctly, I believe over the summer the intention was to sign a veteran center back, but I believe that options that were the options that were preferred were A, too expensive, or B, not available. In that, and when I say not available, they either didn't want to come to Greece or the clubs didn't want to sell them. And real quick, Martial, I want to thank Mike Skobakos. I think this is Mike Scob adding a Akos to his name. Thank you so much for the donation, buddy. Says thanks, guys, for trying to be honest with us. Keep it up. And then he had a comment I pulled up a little bit earlier that I wanted to talk about because I wanted to just make sure that we keep some context here. And his comment earlier was the club is losing money. Or no, not this one. It was about Mendilibar. That's the wrong one. Hold on. Let me find his comment about Mendilibar real quick. Oh, I lost it and I actually had it. Okay, here we go. He wants to come back to a previous comment. Mendilibar is not the right manager for Olympiacos, or he is out of his wits and the pressure has a toll on him. Of course, any change only out of respect. So in the chat today, Martial, and the reason I wanted to touch back to this because I wanted to make sure that we reestablished our baseline here, because you have people in the chat that say Mendilibar should go. And then there's people in the chat that hated the transfer policy. We made terrible transfers this summer and have that opinion. And I want to remind everybody that, look, okay, was the result disappointing today? Yes, but we're in first place. We have the best roster on this in this league. We have the best roster in Greece, period. We have multiple players and individuals that have double-digit goal contributions already this season. We make the most scoring chances, the best scoring chances of teams in Greece, period. Champions League, despite the underwhelming performance against Bafos, for most of the games in Champions League, even against better competition, outside of maybe Arsenal and parts against Barcelona, we've been the better team in these Champions League matches. So I think while we're complaining about various things, we have to have perspective that, guys, we're in first place. We were not in first place at this point last season. Remember, we had dropped points on multiple occasions because we could not score. We could not create as many opportunities. We were drastically underperforming. We were also at risk of not making knockouts for Europa League at one point until we won the last two games. So I think we need to have a little bit of perspective here. As much as we complain about certain transfers, part of the reason why we're winning the league right now is because we have better players than everybody else. As much as everyone wanted to tell us Panathinaikos made better deals than we did, PAOK had better business than we did. But this transfer window was not awful. Maybe we should have gotten a player. Maybe we should have gotten a better winger or consolidated, maybe not bought as many midfielders, put that money together and budget and bought a better winger. But we have the best squad in Greece, regardless of what your conniptions are with individuals. We have the best squad in Greece. The squad depth is not the problem with the individual talent and roster on the system or in the team. The problem is the management of said players by the manager and by the coach. You can argue as much as you want that Mendilibar should have gotten better players to the moon and back. Sure, maybe you're right. Fine. But that doesn't take away from the fact that we have the best team in Greece. We have a roster that should be doing better, that has proved it should be doing better in Champions League. If you look at the tables, that were the one that we posted, we're underperforming based on XG in Champions League. We should have 4 more points in Champions League. We should have 9 points. because of the points we dropped against Bafos, PSV, and Real Madrid. We should have 4 more points than we already do. This team is good enough to compete. This team is the best in Greece. This is not the problem. The problem is how certain parts of the roster have been managed. And at the same time, while that is a critique on Mendilibar for various aspects, we also have to recognize that our performance this year is improved than over last season. We're in first place in the first half of the season. That wasn't the case last season. So we have to recognize certain improvements that have been there. We also have to recognize that we have brought in talented players that will bring us value. So I think we need to reestablish that baseline real quick while everybody's complaining.
No, but we also need to realize that let's say Mendilibar is replaced by a coach in January. What will be the first thing that happens? New coach comes and say, you're cutting this one, this one, this one, this one. So the quality you have on paper disappears if you change the coach. The only coach that can have Yaremchuk and Taremi and Yazici and Kabila and Nascimento performs and try to win a spot when they play is Mendilibar and no one else. Because if people want Mendilibar to leave, I mean, why not? But what comes with that is like 10 departures in the squad. And we are getting a point in which it's very difficult to have the full roster to perform. That is maybe the club needs more injuries. Maybe El Kabi out with like remodel the team for 2-3 games, and maybe we'll see different things. We don't know because uh, we end up pretty much on a regular basis talking about the same stuff. Like, yeah, we have so much quality. Mendilibar is not using full quality, but I don't think it's possible. You have 5 subs, and you have to play in the Champions League, the Cup, the league, and we are in the position to qualify in the Champions League. We are first in the league, and we will qualify in the Cup. So uh, the main discussion we need to have is about transfers. It's about signing less player but better players. And if you sign less player and you give the kind of player I would love the club to sign is the equivalent of Ozdoev from PAOK. You know what I mean? Like 28 years old guy that comes from a good league, like a Guillerme, for example. If you sign Guillerme in the summer and you give that a Mendilibar, what do you think will happen? Like the team will be better, and that's it. It's the kind of player we need to sign. It's okay to sign Nascimento. It's okay to sign Mancha, but sometimes you need to sign 26 to 29 years old player. And I think basically that was what Mendilibar has last summer, unless I'm wrong. Like Milla, Vicente, Brian Gill. I don't recall every name we were linked to.
He was only like 20, 22.
Yeah, you're right.
He's young.
I'm saying it. Yeah,
the
you're right.
Milla was older, 30, 31. Vicente, I think, was like 28, 29, if I remember correctly. But
you know what I mean? Another
but I get what you mean.
I truly loved in Paphos, like is Lucasen, the Dutch center back. It's not a massive center back, but for a club like Paphos, when you have a 30 years old center back that is reliable, like it has no value on the market because you can't find those guys. And we need to see Olympiacos loves those 35 years old free agents so much. It needs to change.
We always have one.
It's nice to sign Kabila, but if you want to sign Kabila, at least give him space to play. Because the worst thing is not signing Kabila, is signing Kabila and seeing Kabila flopped. I can't stand that because what is the message you send to the world, if I can say that? Like, okay, we're signing someone we tried to sign like 5 times in the past. It comes finally, and the coach say, "I don't want the guy," and that's it. No, I just can't accept that.
I mean, in that respect, the problem wasn't the signing then of players; it was the fact we didn't move enough on. the because I think if we're talking about like the age profile, right? I think we had a nice balance of age that we brought in, even last summer, right? If you plus the academy kids that we brought in, Diogo Nascimento's 21, right? Scipione's 21. Um, Strafezza's 29. Of course, Taremi's older. He's 33. And then Cabela's 34, if I remember correctly. So I think the distribution in age, Gustavo Mancha's 21 also. As far as like the distribution of ages, we had a nice mix of young and old in terms of those players. But based on what you're saying, we needed to move play. The problem isn't the players we brought in, it's we didn't move enough on. 23. I'm sorry. Mike Scobb, Nascimento's 23. In that case.
We can't have it all.
Right. Yeah.
We will
Look,
never win the Youth League and a European trophy the same year with Kostulas and Musakidis coming in the first team. It happened once. It's not happening before. I don't know how long. I mean, let's not take that for something that can happen on a regular basis. I just wanted to say that because I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated as much as everyone not to see more youngsters playing. But it's fair to say that Pneumonides and Liatsikuras aren't what Kostulas and Musakidis were when they popped into the first team.
no, I think it's pretty clear that even though I think they're great players coming out of the academy, the level of potential is completely different. But that's a different conversation altogether. I do want to say, as far as the transfers go, I think that okay, we're Champions League this season. The summer that we have high profile sales coming up. Plus, it looks like we probably will be guaranteed league phase Champions League again next season. I think this will help greatly when it comes to the resources that we'll have next summer. I'm the optimist in me wants to believe that, again, this is assuming we don't have a lot of turnover, but we make one or two pretty good sales plus the Champions League money that we're going to expect to get. Maybe we can bring in some of those higher profile signings while also having a nice mix from the academy. Well, we'll see what happens, but the optimist in me is kind of telling me that.
No, but
Martial,
if
oh,
just
go ahead.
to conclude on that, I man, I truly hope that if we go to the Champions League again, we are going to get like Nottingham players, man. Like Nottingham quality players, straight from Nottingham to us to play the fucking Champions League. Like I've been watching Nottingham in the Europa League, and what is the B team for Nottingham is full of players that should be sent to Olympiacos to play the Champions League. Like two, three of them. Yeah, it's even more frustrating to see the summer Olympiacos has when you see the amount of player Nottingham can sign without using them and without being able to find a way to send good players out of Nottingham to play the Champions League with Olympiacos. Because I I don't know what's the plan when Marinaki signs players for Nottingham that seems not really good enough to play for Nottingham because does he have in mind that maybe they can be shifted to Olympiacos? I don't know. I hope not because they don't want to come here. And like when you sign Jota Silva from Portugal, that was one of the best winger in Portugal. Just don't sign the guy for Nottingham if he doesn't want to come here. It's
Yeah,
even more frustrating to see that rather than to sign Kabela for Olympiacos and not using him.
you are never. I mean, each team operates independently, right? Forest, Olympiacos, Rio Ave. You are never going to be able to completely bin off a player just because he doesn't want to come play for Olympiacos. Like Jota Silva's agent would never have allowed him to play for Olympiacos. That would never have happened. Like I agree with you. I wish that were the case, but in reality, I don't think that's an expectation we can have.
No, but it's frustrating. I mean, It's just frustrating. It's frustrating because we could get access to a quality of play. We lost Ari on the Hari. Are you there? Okay, I'm gonna continue solo, but I just wanted to say that when you have Nottingham being that powerful, you just you could get access to uh, Jota Silva that was mentioned. You could get access uh, to I don't remember the Argentinian midfielder that had like Dominguez. That what Dominguez is a typical player that could be playing for Olympiacos, in my opinion.
No, I'm
But
with you.
you know what happened? We're gonna get Willy Bolly in January, man. He's not playing at all with Nottingham. No, you're on mute. You're
Sorry,
on
I'm
mute.
on mute. I'm with you. I agree with what you're saying. 100%. I'm just I think unfortunately the reality of the situation means that things materialize a little bit different. But Martial, as we begin to come to the end, there is a segment that I did want to talk about. I asked in the chat, we put a poll up asking at this point right now, what position do we need in the winter? What position do you think we need the most in terms of signings? Yes, I know that there's players we have to move on, but let's forget about that for a second. Looking at the squad, looking at the roster, looking at how the games are going, where are we deficient? What do you think? Which position do we need to upgrade the most in order to get better than what we're getting, and which will give us better chances to win in Champions League or even the Greek league as well? The chat is very divided on this. But what is your answer to that question? What position do you believe we need the most in the transfer window? Now you're on mute.
Sorry, I would say the biggest one. I mean, I'm not considering that the signing will make a difference for the reminders of Champions League game. But if we project the team to play in the Champions League next summer, we need a new left back, in my opinion, and probably a center back, but only if we can find someone uh, that truly worth it. Because I think we come to the situation in which I don't see Retsos being able to be the starter of Olympiacos because of the physical unreliability he has. So we need someone that can be a second choice, but also a starter along to Pirola. But I don't see Pirola staying next season. So we need to be very careful in the winter because last winter we kind of panicked with the left back, and we ended up signing someone that was okay for the remainder of the season. But you need to see further than that. So it's a very difficult question you ask because my biggest fear is just to add another name into an already big squad.
No, I hear you there. I mean, here's how divided the audience is on this question. So 28% of the audience believes we need a center back. Another 28% wants a midfielder. 24% say fullback and 21% say winger. So it is very tight. But the more, I guess we'll say the lead, there's a tie between center back and midfielder, which I find to be a little bit surprising. I am becoming, in the beginning, I would have told you, like last summer, I wanted a left back. That was my big thing because prior to seeing what we saw from Ortega, I wanted an upgrade there because I believed a proper upgrade at left back would have done more for us. Given that last season, our right side of the field did pretty much everything for us. This season, Ortega's probably had his best season ever under Olympiacos. I still want a left back, something better than Bruno, or even if we were to sell Ortega, a good left back that is at least has more to offer than Francisco Ortega does, because I think that would massively benefit us in terms of evening out what we do on the left versus our right side. But the more the season wears on, the more we see injuries to Rezos, to Biancon, and others. I do want a veteran center back. I wanted a veteran center back over the summer. We didn't get it. We got Mancha instead. But I really think we need a veteran. We need a proper, especially if we make knockouts, we need a veteran because we know Retsos is going to miss games. That he's more injury prone this season. He had some injuries last season too. You're not going to get Retsos for over 4,000 minutes. It's just not happening. We need to have a proper backup that is ready and able to fill in. Not just Biancon, but somebody that's a little bit more ready than Gustavo Mancha is. I I'm happy with Kalogeropoulos. I think Kalogeropoulos will have a place on this team, but I do believe if we're going to be and have knockout football, we need to have a veteran center back. I don't care if we send Gustavo Mancha out on loan or sell somebody, but we have to have a veteran. If we do not make knockouts, Martial, I'm not buying anybody. I'm not touching the center backs at all. I'm not touching any position unless we sell somebody if we do not make knockouts because I don't see the point. This team is already the best that it can be for Greece. We are better than everybody else, period. We have the best quality. I've watched every bout game except for today. I've watched every Panathinaikos game, and I've watched every AEK game except for today. We have the best squad. We have the best roster of the top teams, period. So unless we make the knockouts, I'm not making big changes unless we make sales. That's my personal opinion.
No, you're right. I do agree with that. I just wanted to answer one comment I saw earlier. Diallo, that the French shadow back. I don't think it's a good idea to sign the guy because he's he has been like super unreliable physically
Yeah, he's
since the
barely played.
past 4 or 5 seasons, man. He was already uh, unreliable when he came to PSG, and he has like tremendous. I think it's basically what a red sauce, a left-footed red sauce that can play less than red sauce, but he has he is a beautiful defender, not a top defender, and I think he has been in Qatar too long for him to be worthy of a signing for Olympiacos. Even if he's gonna free at the end of the season, I don't think he's not what we need. Like the Leo Pereira is probably the best fit. Like in terms of the name we've heard, yeah, El Karani is also a good player. I don't think we're gonna track him, but El
Um,
Karani is typically the kind of guy that will sign for Porto on a free and be worth in like 30 million by the end of the season.
I'm with you here. Would you? So this comment from Aris for the individuals that aren't that are on audio only. 3 signings I want us to make now or in the summer: El Caruani, Leo Pereira, and Santino Andino. The Santino Andino is the winger we were um, linked with for Godoy Cruz in Argentina. Very simple, and please do not offer a new contract to Gelson. Just activate the +1 and sell him. Are you ready to get rid of Gelson over the summer?
Yes and no. Yes, because I don't know. I kind of agree with the +1. That would be ideal for us because uh, we Olympiacos is a club that is so afraid to let someone leave, but also on another side, no club would let Gelson leave on a free. You just can't let Gelson leave on a free when you're Olympiacos. What matters is the role that you're gonna give him. But the thing is, it's not possible to let him go on a free. +1 seems kind of risky because if he stays in the new team, you will need to renew him. I don't know. It's difficult.
Yeah, I think uh, I'm caught with. So Gelson had a great season for us last season. He was our second highest goal contributor after Ayub El Kabi. This season, the goal contributions are not materializing because his end product has been terrible. He does a lot of work for us to beat defenders, get into the final third, get into the penalty area, but then that last ball just is evading him this season. I go back and forth with this with Gelson. I cannot decide how I want to treat him over the summer, to be honest with you. I think I want to give some of these players the rest of the season because we saw how many we had last year that really didn't kick on until later on. Like Strefetza, we're just seeing now kicking into gear. He's doing better in games, materializing more for us in terms of end product. You know, there's players that are going to do more for us in the second half of the season. I want to wait to see that. Roman Yaremchuk was like that. So I'm not going to call it quits on anybody yet, but I think, I think that I think we're going to see some better from some players. Maybe even Gelson too. Maybe we finally start getting end product of him. My worry with him though is that like he hasn't improved since he's arrived. Right? He's been very good at what he's good at, but that end product has not gotten better. If that makes sense. Like last year, it was a little bit better, but we didn't have any other wingers with which to say, okay, this guy is doing this. Now we have Podence, right? We have Podence, Strefetza, who are able to materialize more. But like last season, all we had was Gelson Martins. We couldn't rely on anybody else. Who do we have that we could rely? We put Chiquinho on the wing, Costulas on the wing. We had Luis Palma we brought in the winter. So now that we have better wingers available, Gelson Martins doesn't look as valuable as he did.
But also, it's about time people realize that there is no winger a part of the top one, probably, that would easily outperform Gelson, considering what Mendilibar asks from the winger. It's about time people realize that the amount of defense you have to do, the amount of runs, the amount of we can find someone more effective than Gelson, probably, but
Right.
it's not that something. For me, it has zero chance to happen. Like having Strefezza, Podence, the current Podence, and Gelson. I mean, it's the price to pay when you have a coach that requires the player to run so much. And Gelson has scored twice in the Champions League. I mean, can we really expect to sign better, despite what we've seen of Gelson?
Not
Maybe
for
I will
less than 10
ask
million.
people. I will ask people that watch the show to work on some names the club could sign. That would be ideal solution for Olympiacos, given what Mendy's want. Because we all ask for other wingers, but we can't find them. We can't find them, and I'm sure if we would have a one-on-one bit with Mendilibar, it would say, "I understand what you say, but look at Gelson, look at the numbers, look at what I'm asking, look at what he does, look at this game, look at this game, look at these runs, look at this dribble." And the answer is there. The answer is there because it's you. That's why I'm calling Strefezza a fullback, because he's basically more defensive than a winger, and he has talent, but he can't score. And the next question is, why can't we see Rodinei as a winger ever again? But I think we can save that for another show.
For sure. Guys, we are an hour and 15 minutes here. Been chatting a lot about this. Maybe, Martial, we can have a couple of short recordings for some of those discussions that we really could
Uh,
spend a lot of time on. That's a good idea for us to do.
the
But
the
go
winger
ahead.
we needed, man. The winger we needed
Andre Luis?
was Florian Thauvin.
Oh,
He
yeah,
was the
that,
one.
man, I would have loved to
He
have him
was the
here.
van. I don't know if people in the chat watch his League One, but he came back to League One off a very good stint in Syria when he preferred to go to Udinese rather than sign with us. And now he's back in the national team. Lens is first in the league, and he has been elected twice the player of the month. He was exactly what Mendilibar would have loved. He works for the team, he runs, he presses, he defends, he is left footed, he can score, he assists. He was the guy. He was the guy. I don't recall any name that were close to join and that would be the guy more than him.
Well, there you have it, guys. Talvan, the player we all should have signed. We'll remember that for the clip that we put out on socials. But everyone, thanks again for tuning in and listening to us here. In the end, we can't win them all. Was it a disappointing game? Yes. But there has been Olympiacos teams in the past that lose that game to Aris. And we have lost games to Aris away like that before. So let's not forget this. We're still in first. So something to remember, guys. Not something to be super upset about with this match. And we have cup football coming up, right? Our next game is against Iraklis. Martial, do I have that correct? Or do I need to actually pull the schedule back up?
We basically have 4 games until Leverkusen that we need to win. Like it's Iraklis, Kifisia, I think it's Atromitos and Asteras.
Yeah. Well, when is the Super Cup? When is the Super Cup? We have the Super Cup against Ofi.
Let me look.
Yeah, that's literally it's our first game of the new year is the Super Cup against Ofi.
Okay. So we have 5 games to win, and then we have, the schedule is so weird. Because
tough.
but then we have Ajax, AEK, and Panathinaikos and Olympiacos.
Yeah. In like a week, we have it's Leverkusen, and then like with the following week we play our next Champions League game. There's no space. It's crazy. Anyway. We'll talk about all of that, guys, on another show. We'll have plenty of stuff coming out to you guys. Martial Monday, of course, tomorrow as well for you, that for the patrons and for those of you that are interested in joining Patreon. I'm Adi. This is Martial. This is Theros International by the fans for the fans. And we, of course, will see everyone next time. Once again, everyone, guys, just a loss today. Still nothing. The world's not crumbling, as upset as you might be about certain things. So have a great rest of your week. We'll be back for Cup football, and we're still winning this league. You heard it from me. We're winning this league. We're making the knockouts. Adios.